Okay, this is going to be the first video without any pre-written script for the intro. No, put that away. All jokes aside, scrolling through Twitter and Instagram is a treacherous game to play, especially when you stumble upon something like this. Study shows dating opportunities for men are decreasing as more healthy relationship standards arise. And the first thing you see is a man in the comments crying out in the contrary, saying that it's women who are asking for richer and richer men that are causing the problem. To which I say to you, how come Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates and Elon Musk and all these other people are divorced? They're literally the richest people on the planet. Now, you could make the counter-argument that, oh, but now these are the richest women on the planet, and I mean, yeah, you're right, but there's no way that there's not some kind of correlation here, right? Now, the original Instagram post was referencing a study done by Psychology Today, and taking a look at the article, it looks like it isn't much of a study, it's just more of a blog post containing sort of anecdotal evidence, but I mean, this is a YouTube video, about healthy relationship standards or something similar, so take this all with a grain of salt. Dating opportunities for heterosexual men are diminishing as healthy relationship standards arise. I mean, what else needs to be said? After many discussions, this seems to be caused by unhealthy relationship standards applied into men by the internet as a whole, with the Sigma Grindset videos and the alpha male videos and the Andrew Tates of the world. And if you don't know who that is, I would advise that you keep it that way. Men represent approximately 62% of dating app users, lowering their chances for matches. I understand the sentiment behind this statistic, but it obviously doesn't paint the full picture, seeing as an increase in men on dating apps should theoretically increase the number of partnered women on said apps, but as discussed before, having more options does not always mean that they're going to be good ones. Men need to address skills deficits to meet healthier relationship expectations. Who would have guessed? In a relationship between two people, both people should be actively working to contribute to a relationship. To be honest with you, I think the wool is being pulled over our eyes, and women especially are finally realizing that they don't need to settle for the bare minimum, considering the fact that the bare minimum for men is probably lower than that for women. The minimum may be enough to support one person, but will likely not be enough to support another. In the next section, this article discusses what they've described as, quote, 3 broad trends in the relationship landscape that suggest heterosexual men are in for a rough road ahead, which will, as you guessed, be looked at in as sarcastic a fashion as I could reasonably manage. Whether you're just starting to date, or you're recently divorced and dating again, dating apps are a huge driver of new romantic connections in the United States. Side note, I really dislike the culture that most dating apps encourage, and in a similar vein to the anonymity of online profiles, dating apps almost just let you throw caution to the wind because, hey, the next person could be a swipe away. At least sometimes. The only problem is that upwards of 62% of the users are men, and many women are overwhelmed with the amount of options they have. Well, I guess I stand corrected, but this furthers the fake problem that we've been presented with. Overwhelmed by the amount of options? Most people on dating apps won't even continue conversation past the opener, and hell, some people won't even let you get that far. You get the notification that someone swiped right on you, and then you go to look and... Aw, they unswiped? I didn't even know that they could do that. With so many options, it's not surprising that women are increasingly selective. Both parties have many more people that they can browse between, but this makes it sound like theoretically women should also be more lonely, but we'll get to that in a minute. They prefer men who are emotionally available, good communicators, and share similar values. Wow, who would have guessed? Somebody in a relationship wanting another person who is good at things that are key to being in a relationship. Welcome to 2022, folks, where it's a shock that statements like this have to be made in the first place. Now, I know exactly why they have to be made, which is the fact that men especially are getting a lot of their relationship advice from dudes who are probably rich and probably have divorced multiple times, rather than anybody else in their life. People who are in successful relationships, people who have put in a lot of time and work to fix their relationships. Hell, other women that they are friends with would be a better resource than most of the mainstream content that you're going to find out there. For men, this means that a relationship skills gap, if not addressed, will likely lead to fewer dating opportunities, less patience for poor communication skills, and longer periods of being single. In comes the biggest revelation that we've come up with so far. Simply put, women are no longer willing to deal with quote-unquote subpar men, or men who do the bare minimum. We live in a constantly progressing society, folks, so you need to constantly progress or risk being left behind. The problem is that emotional connection is the lifeblood of healthy long-term love, and emotional connection requires all the skills that families are still not consistently teaching their young boys. This is where I draw the fucking line. I will admit, this is a pretty big societal problem. The fact that people don't know how to teach people, but they also don't know how to tell people that they don't know how to teach them. People would rather have the generations under them suffer just like they did, rather than using their expertise or their experience to make life easier for the next generation. However, at some point, this is not a fucking excuse, and the responsibility should be placed on the individual person. The more that you tell men, this is your family's fault or this is society's fault, you're further instilling the idea that it cannot be changed, it cannot be fixed, it's entirely out of their control, and you're removing all of the accountability from them. And accountability is the first step towards improvement, both for yourself, the people around you, and the people you instill this knowledge into. The article does go into one good thing that's coming out of this realization, though. Dating app algorithms are getting more advanced, which is increasing the number of great matches, further increasing your chances for a first and second successful date, and the entirety of this article was surrounding dating apps' influence on the issue, so it is great to see such a large platform getting better in that regard. I just hope that more people come to this realization in their day-to-day lives so that they can fix the issue at home. Have talks with your male and your female friends about this topic, as it is actually a great thing to talk about, if the 3 hours that I spent in a Discord call talking about it is anything to go off of. Another side note, I have a theory that the only reason men are being called out in this situation is because women, since the dawn of time, have been indoctrinated into doing everything in their power to please their partner in whichever ways they see fit. And I'm not saying I inherently agree with the sentiment, but I can understand why women are the ones making this judgment calls here. Bear with me here. If we travel all the way back to the beginning of this video, I would also like to point out that the men who are denoting the notion of this situation are the perfect encapsulation of exactly what is wrong with these types of people. Rather than even entertaining the idea that maybe dudes in today's society are not as great of partners as they could be, whilst also acknowledging the mental health problems in the general world, especially amongst men, they will instead push the blame onto literally anything else. The earlier example was gold-digging women, but they'll direct their rage at women in general, the internet in general, or society as a whole, which also discussed is at least partially true. Obviously, I don't expect one guy on YouTube to fix this issue, but I would at least hope that one person sees this and decides the conversation is worth bringing to a troubled friend, a friend with a difficult relationship, or maybe even making your own content on the issue to spread awareness on the issue further. Personal accountability can also better your ability to problem solve, which are also important traits for men to have. At the end of the day, I wouldn't say that this is a video that necessarily needs to be made, although I guess technically no video needs to be made, but I feel like this is a pretty important issue, and I hope you can at least take a man's perspective on, well, men being shitty people, and why they need to better themselves to get into a relationship, because people like being in relationships, but also why you should just be wanting to make yourself a better person in general. Focusing on that will help you in your long-term relationships, help you be better with your friends, help you be better with yourself, help you be better. Period.